My name is Michael Evans. I graduated from Loyola Marymount University in 1995. Actually supposed to be part of the class of 1993, which means I was a freshman in 1989. My third day on campus, someone wrote Westchester KKK on the front sign coming into Loyola Marymount, and that kind of let me know the environment I was going to be dealing with. So in 1992, some events took place surrounding the LA riots that happened on April 29th, 1992. A couple of weeks before the riots, someone broke into my apartment, Hannon 101, that I shared with three other black males and wrote nigger on the wall. I think maybe a few days or maybe even a week later, there was a race riot on campus involving black students and white students, in which the LAPD was called, and they came in with their helicopters and the whole 9 yards. That took place on campus. And then when the riots actually took place, I think it was the next day, Loyola Marymount called an assembly of all the students into the gymnasium for us to express ourselves. And I remember walking up there. At the time, I was the head of the Black Student Union. I said something militant, and I walked out. And the next thing I know, a whole bunch of people was walking out after me. And so I remember talking with a couple of other officers of the BSU, and I decided to start a sit-in. At that time, Loyola Marymount only had one way in and one way out, and that was Loyola Boulevard. And so I sat down in the middle of the entrance, and next thing I know, about 500 white students had joined in on the sit-in and blocked the entrance so where no one could come in and no one could leave. So I conferred with some of the other officers of BSU, and we came up with three demands. And so I met with the chancellor at that time, Merrifield, and gave him our three demands. Our three demands were as follows. The first one was that Loyola make the statement that in the same way that LMU is a microcosm of Los Angeles, which is a microcosm of California, which is a microcosm of the United States, and given the fact that the United States has a problem with racism, as does California and Los Angeles, so does Loyola Marymount. He said, Mike, no problem. I'll make that statement. Second demand was to give a donation of $50,000 to First AME Church. He said, Mike, no problem. I can commit to that. The third was to commit to the establishment of a multicultural curriculum. He said, Mike, I cannot commit to that. I don't control the curriculum. The faculty does. So I told him, well, I can't give you your campus back. And that started an 11-hour standoff. So our sit-in lasted from about 5 in the evening till about 4 o'clock in the morning. Three other BSU officers met with the president at that time. I remember that it was Jamone Byers. Oh, it was Janelle. And I can't remember who the third person was. But two of the people I'm still friends with on Facebook. And so they met with him for 11 hours negotiating. And you'll have to speak with them. But from what I remember, he was crying during the negotiations. And then while we were sitting, waiting, one of my roommates got chased around campus by a white guy with a gun. And so, but what came out of that was Merrifield making the statement. They gave $50,000 to First AME Church. They did it with two $25,000 checks. And I remember that the pastor from First AME Church, I cannot remember his name, but he's a famous pastor in LA. He came to accept one of the $25,000 checks. And they ultimately decided that they would study instituting a multicultural curriculum. And out of that, Fernando Guerra um, was appointed to a new position. And I understand that 10 years later, they actually did institute a multicultural curriculum. So that gives you some history, because most people don't know that that's where it all started. Um, April 29th, April 30th, right after the LA riots, and when we held the campus hostage for 11 hours.